This video is about the royal family and the Queen Elizabeth and how she colonized enslaved people, put them into chains, and forced them to believe in Christianity.
Tours are a key part of the job for members of the royal family. It can be full of energy, flag waving and photo opportunities. In recent times though, there have been some awkward moments. And for some, they have been a reminder of the monarchy's difficult imperial past.
Slavery was abhorrent, and it should never have happened.
As of June 2022, the British Crown was still legally head of state in these 15 countries. All former British colonies or protectorates. But increasingly there have been calls for the British monarch to be removed as head of state.
Ladies and gentlemen, their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, have arrived. Please stand.
They shouldn't be welcomed as leaders of the country, as representatives of the head of state. How these two young white people now going to be here saying we are going to kowtow to them and we are going to bend and bow and kneel to them. Those days are done. The monarchy is a relic.
In the Caribbean, some people want the royal family to provide reparations for their role in slavery. So what exactly are the monarchy's links to the slave trade?
The royal family's links to slavery began during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. The crown and the royal family was deeply involved in the slave trade and making money off the slave trade. Charles II granted a charter to the Royal Adventurers originally, and they were then reconstituted as the Royal African Company to deal directly in enslaved Africans and to sell them in the New World, but primarily to the colonies in the Caribbean and mainland North America.
This was one of the greatest atrocities in human history, and those who suffered in this atrocity are persons from the region, a lot of persons from the Caribbean region, and that suffering was not only immense, it was generational, and a lot of wealth was derived from the suffering, a lot of benefits was derived from the suffering.
The brands that were used on the bodies of enslaved people featured the name of monarchs. So for example, the Duke of York, one of the brands that was used by the Royal African Company with the letters DY, and this was actually instructed to be put onto the bodies of enslaved people. So they are making it very clear that the royal family is involved, that the royal family supports the slave trade, and that actually because the royal family supports it, this is a good investment. This is a safe investment. This was seen as the way to build an empire, but also as a way to convert Africans to Christianity. That was the primary argument that was made at the time. So the crown saw itself as a civilizing, Christianizing force that, yes,
Yeah, because in their mind, you are an animal with no religion, no belief system. You was a savage. So they thought, hey, let's force Christianity and white Jesus down their throat and basically tell them what to believe in. All while branding you, putting their last name, first and last names on our people back with a hot iron, like a cow.
They were profiting, and yes, they were supplying laborers to the colonies, but they also saw themselves as on the right side because they were expanding and civilizing the world.
The wise African chiefs have seen the tremendous changes in Nairobi to which the princess herself referred in her speech.
The contrast we see today is a striking tribute to the men and women of all races who had made it a great center of commerce and finance, the crossroads of East Africa, the capital of your colony, and the seat of the East Africa High Commission.
So of course that family has benefited from enslavement, and so has many institutions in this country, whether it's the railways, the roads, the banks, HSBC, Barclays, and the enslavers were compensated when slavery was ended, and the compensation didn't stop getting paid until 2015. So people like me.
Hold on. the royal monarchy and the colonizers and all the people that did this to you, they still being compensated for the transatlantic slave trade since 2015, and they making people like him that live in the UK and Great Britain pay on that tax. So you basically paying them for your ancestors being enslaved and getting paid off the slave trade. Wow. Since 2015, they still getting paid off the transatlantic slave trade in 2015. I'm going to let that sink in.
Were paying actually for compensation for the enslavers. But the people who were enslaved were never compensated. We never even got an apology.
By the 1790s, there's a growing groundswell of support for abolition in Britain. But the royal family is deeply opposed to the abolition of the slave trade. George III did not come out publicly and say that he was against the slave trade, but he made it very clear to his ministers that he would not support abolition as a cabinet measure. So this was something that the public knew, that the royal family was against abolition, that the royal family believed that the slave trade was crucial to maintaining Britain's wealth and power and its imperial interests.
Repairing that damage is something that both Prince Charles and Prince William have tried to do in recent years.
Okay, watch. They about to go. The prince now got to go on an apology tour for what they did with the enslavement of all the people. This is pathetic, man. An apology tour? Let's get it.
Some of the strongest words yet from members of the royal family when it comes to links to slavery, and some have seen it as a real shift in attitudes.
From the darkest days of our past.
You was there.
And the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history.
Mm-hmm.
I want to express my profound sorrow.
Go on the apology tour.
Slavery was abhorrent. And it should never have happened.
But it did.
Expressing sorrow, but not saying sorry. And
right, because they're not sorry. And look at this dude.
From about an apology for slavery. How are you feeling about that debate here?
Slavery? Well, we're now independent. We're now been given freedom.
Look at him. He think he free.
Slavery to me, it's been abolished. So
wow.
Back in time.
Wow.
And move forward.
You comfortable niggas.
It wasn't him. It was back him.
It wasn't him. It was back in the day. You see how stupid black people are?
Looking about it's a better place. Yes. And that's the best thing you can do. Yes, that's what
Y'all are so dumb. That's why this place got to burn. Because y'all just some dumb ass coons that's willing to forgive Esau for whatever the hell he could run up in you, rape, rob, and murder your people, live off the benefits of the slave trade. And as long as you niggas get to go shopping and drink some highballs, y'all cool.
Indigenous people while the country was still part of the British Empire.
This is the best part coming up.
Helps us to really
I'm sick of these
develop
commercials.
our employees for the
Hold
next
on. The best part coming. Look, look.
In 2021, statues of both Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II were toppled on Canada Day. It followed the shocking discovery of unmarked graves at school sites, where Indigenous children had been forcibly taken from their families during the reign of Queen Victoria.
My parents, my grandparents, my aunt, uncles, and
Native American brothers.
Still scarred the community.
Still scarred. So it happened to our parents and grandparents, but it's still affecting us.
Indigenous communities in Australia and New Zealand have also taken issue with the royal family. Indigenous Australians say that Britain never acknowledged that Australia was owned by Aboriginal people before it was colonised by the British in 1788.
The colonisation of both countries included violence, it included disease and dispossession, and it certainly included massacre. There's a whole range of things that happened to Aboriginal people. A number of communities, and in fact I would suggest most, were impacted quite profoundly by having their culture either denied to them or their language denied to them.
In New Zealand, Indigenous people have protested the Treaty of Waitangi, a founding agreement between the British Crown and a number of Maori chiefs. The agreement contained protections and land rights for Maori people that were never honoured. In 1995, the Queen delivered an apology from the British Crown to New Zealand's
Somebody
biggest
need to
Maori
take
tribe
that
for
pen
the
and
seizure of
stab her in the
Maori
neck with
lands
it.
by British colonisers. And in 2005, a topless protester wrote, "Get your colonial shame off my breasts," as Prince Charles toured the country.
White people crazy.
In recent times, the Crown has sought to distance itself from colonialism and racial prejudice.
May I just say that while I'm here,
Check
with
this
my
out.
husband, as a member of the royal family, I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of color, and as your sister.
Wow. Pause. Because Meghan Markle, hold on, let's pause that. Meghan Markle is not even, Meghan Markle is an Edomite. Her father is an Edomite and her mother is an Israelite. So Meghan Markle is an Edomite. She's not even black for real. And they still hate her. Watch.
People married into the royal family, she was not treated well and alleged that she had been, horribly treated and ended up fleeing the royal family and is no longer an active royal.
The royal family a racist family, sir? No, very much not a racist family.
The image of the monarchy in some ways is more important than anything, and by all respects they have failed, especially recently with the treatment of Meghan Markle, the royal tours, the backlash against the crown. None of it is good, and none of it bodes well for the survival of this institution, especially among the younger generations.
And the Meghan Markle case is really interesting because she's a light-skinned, mixed-race woman. She's almost white passing to a certain extent. She's much lighter than me. So she has certain privileges that dark-skinned black women probably wouldn't have. Yet she was still attacked by the mainstream media, by the social media trolls, by commentators, by people inside.
Now just imagine if she was an Israelite woman and dark-skinned.
That we're not as progressive as we think we are, that we still have an issue with race in this country. And I think a lot of the time we think the race issue is something that's just focused on America, which is why the uprising in 2020, I think, caught a lot of people off guard, because they're like, oh, racism just happens in America, it's just George Floyd. But we never want to look at the racism that actually is taking place in this country.
The royals still have a lot of support overseas, but in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, there has been a shift, and we could now see countries following in the footsteps of Barbados by removing the British monarch as head of state.
There is really no support for maintaining some of these colonial ties in the 21st century. Once the Queen is gone, there are already many colonies, former colonies, leaving now while the Queen is still alive. I think that is really the most sobering aspect of this, that Barbados has already left, Jamaica is signaling that it will leave. If these former colonies are already now trying to sever ties and become truly independent, what is to stop other members of the Commonwealth?
And everybody needs to. And I got more videos on the Queen. This is, just watch, because I'm about to drop another video. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.